Hello, this is Abnormal Psychology. We're looking at assessment, and this is part 4. I was going to say, and ran out of time, that another kind of thought disorder is a flight of ideas. They move from one idea to another, and usually this is very pressured speech, it's called. Rapid speech. So, Rich, where are you from? Where are you from? I'm from New York, and that's a big city. A lot of people in New York, and I'm from that northeast area, and there's all kinds of things going on up there. The city that never sleeps, the Big Apple, the Big Apple. I left my heart in New York. I left my heart, not in San Francisco. I left it in New York. Okay, yeah, okay. So there you go. Another kind of thought disorder is neologisms, an invention of words. Rich, where are you from? Redubitively, I would have to say, inconsequential, but normalities of this would be that I'm from a big city, New York. A perseveration thought disorder is repeating words, phrases. Rich, where are you from? I'm from New York. New York. I'm from New York. I'm from New York. I'm from New York. That's where I'm from. I'm from New York. Exactly, I'm from New York. Tangentiality thought disorder would be responses in the right area but non-specific. Rich, where are you from? From the area of the Northeast. It's an extremely large city. It's the hub for the economics. It's the economic center of the world, of the United States. The Statue of Liberty is there, and it has a lot going on. That's tangential. And then blocking, disruption of thought or breakdown in flow of ideas. That's the last kind I'll talk about. So, Rich, where are you from? I'm That's blocking. Okay? Now, hallucinations, the other part of what we talked about was psychosis, are perceptual errors. So they are false sensory perceptions that are not associated with real environmental external stimuli. Okay, so nothing in the environment is provoking their response in their senses. So the most common one is auditory, where people hear voices. They may hear more than one voice. It may be of different genders, the same gender. Sometimes it's one voice. It varies quite a bit. There are all sorts of classifications for this. It's not worth going through that, but please note that it is not abnormal to occasionally hear your name being called and discover when you turn around no one's there, but it is not normal to hear voices talking about you or telling you what to do, talking about you, evaluating you, and often when people are hallucinating auditorily, they hear voices that are condemning them or telling them to do bad things, and we would always want to know that that's the case. Then we have visual hallucinations, which is the next most common. And these are real common in medical disorders, and so are some of the others. Very most common, but not common ordinarily. They are real common if you're taking hallucinogenic drugs. You can have olfactory hallucinations. This is where you're smelling something that is not there. Yeah. That's a medical condition, most likely. Gustatory, so you're tasting things that are not provoked by what you're eating, and you may be eating nothing. Tactile touch. Some of these are not pathological, actually. And it is thought, just so you might know, that if you concentrate with your eyes closed about touching something, you'll actually begin to feel it as if it were there. That's not really a tactile hallucination. And then a somatic hallucination is when you believe something is going on in your body that can't be happening. Okay. Now we just like in the delusions, we can have mood congruent and mood congruent, mood incongruent and mood congruent hallucinations as well. So keep that in mind. Okay. Next stop here in our assessment is to look carefully at the presenting problem. Why are they coming in for treatment? Why are they here to talk to you? Is their problem relatively normal and typical, or is it very unusual? There's some differences from person to person, but we would want to know if it's particularly unusual. What are the motivations for them to come? Are they there because they want help? Are they being referred by the justice system? Their wife or husband wanting them to be there? Who wants them to get help? Who wants them to get better, and who doesn't? Yeah, those are good questions to ask. And then I want to talk a little bit about testing. So we have what are called projective techniques and objective techniques. And projective techniques are based on the projective hypothesis, which says that we will assign and project our own internal issues onto things that are not us, other people, but also innocuous or neutral stimuli, like a picture of something that's just somebody sitting somewhere, for example. Okay? And there are many of these. An example would be the Rorschach inkblot test, the thematic apperception test, sentence completion test. Now, when you're talking about projective techniques like these, they are criticized roundly by many as being not very valid and not very reliable. But I'm here to tell you, if you're really good at it, it requires a lot of training. I had a course in Rorschach. I wasn't very good when I finished the course, the graduate course. I wasn't very good at it. A whole course, I wasn't very good at. Okay, I got some themes right. Some themes came quickly, but it's very difficult. So it can be very informative if you're good at it. I keep slipping out of this chair. I need to change it somehow. But it does require a lot of training, okay? It does require a lot of training. Rorschach is a guy's name, and although it was first proposed by Binet in the late 1800s, Rorschach in the early 1900s really standardized it, studied it, gave it to thousands and thousands of people so he could standardize it. And there are 10 cards with ink blots, and you just ask the client, what do you see here, or consistently the same question to all clients. Some of these are in color, some in black and white. And you'll note exactly all the things they say. You're going to write down everything they say, which is, you got to be a good fast writer that's legible. That was my biggest problem. I'm fast writing, but you can't tell what I wrote. I can't tell what I wrote. And so, so you've got to be really cautious with this. And you see themes. You see themes erupting. You see common responses people give to his cards. He has 10 cards with ink blots on them. So the left and right are equal. They are symmetrical. So he folded something. He put sometimes only black drops of ink and sometimes color or both, and spread them apart along an axis, the middle. And then so the left and right is symmetrical. And I have those in your PowerPoint. And then you get real unusual stuff. You get aggressive and sexual themes and all sorts of things. And what they see depends on whether they see light or dark or shadowing or those sorts of things. Yeah. Okay. The TAT was created by Henry Murray in the 1930s. They're cards that are innocuous. They tell a story. And you just say, what do you see? Tell me a story about this. And you're going to look at verbal and nonverbal responses. And you're looking for those themes again, normal and unusual themes. And then you get to norm that, as you would with the Rorschach, as to age and gender and race and situation and socioeconomic status and so on. So they're normed to populations, which makes them somewhat more reliable. Okay, and then Herman von Ebbinghaus, who's a big name in lots of ways in psych, at the end of the 19th century. A lot of things in psych were going on then. And then later Rotter, which is the guy who invented the one that is most commonly used, but there are lots of offshoots, had this sentence stem collection, where you have part of a sentence and you ask the client to complete them, and then you look at conscious and unconscious motivations based on all of those factors, and you're norming those themes to their age and gender and so on. Okay? So you might ask them things like, I can always, where I live, and they'll answer the end of that. Okay. Now, the objective tests are paper and pencil or on computer. And examples of these are things like the Bec Depression Inventory and the Bec Anxiety Inventory. I use both of these. They give me a look at what specific symptoms are there. And the Bec Depression Inventory asks you also about suicidal ideation, which is useful. They take very little time. They're very well studied. They have high validity and reliability. And they're inexpensive to buy and use. So I like using those. You can score them in mere seconds once you're used to it, and get a look at the level of anxiety and the level of depression. And then you can chart it over time to see if they're getting better or not. This is a great way to determine such things. With clients who have moderate to severe depression or anxiety, I give it to them every week, or at least every other week. The Mmpi is another objective test. The Minnesota Multiphasic Inventory, Personality Inventory, and there are 567 true-false items that are cross-checking your responses. They are looking for all sorts of issues related to depression and paranoia and anxiety and psychosis and all sorts of things. And it's very, very, very well tested, very valid, very, very useful. But it takes a long time, and it's expensive for the client and time-consuming for you. Even if they do it on a computer, you're going to generate an interpretation report. Okay, so this is very, very long. It can detect things like defensiveness and lying and random measurement with special names like the VIN, the Variable Response Inventory, Variable Response Inconsistency Measure. Sorry, I got that wrong. Okay. Now, in the last section here, I want to talk about clinical observations and then laboratory stuff. Okay? So let me start with clinical observations and then go to the last one. So if you're paying attention to your clients, then you are risking validity and reliability. Of course you are. You're one person. You make mistakes. As I said before, there are weaknesses here. We do the best we can, and this does require training. We could ask someone to monitor themselves with a self-inventory. This is particularly true when we do cognitive behavior therapy or cognitive therapy in and of itself. We give them ways to monitor their thoughts and their behaviors. These kinds of things are useful in assessing infrequent behaviors or overly frequent behaviors. They also measure private thoughts and perceptions. But again, there's reliability issues. So let me give you one more video, okay? Bye-bye.